a lavender salve for healing. This is going to kind of be a little bit of an extended video. We start off with a double boiler, if you have one. On your stove, there's going to be water underneath and then the actual boiler pot on top. This prevents burning and it's really easy. You can get them for like 20 to 30 bucks on Amazon. So they're not that expensive either. And they're also good for other purposes such as melting chocolate and other things, which is kind of like the texture of the beeswax that we're going to be using. So the ingredients I have today are a cup of lavender-infused oil, which I'm going to pour in here now before the water starts boiling. Now, I put lavender buds mixed with a little bit of almond oil, a little bit of I think it was sunflower oil, and a little bit of olive oil mixed together to kind of make a mixture. Now it's mostly strained. There's a little pieces that got in here and there, but it doesn't really take away anything from the recipe. So that's going to be a cup of that. And now with that lavender infused oil, I'd like to note that this is an oil. When I say lavender infused, dried lavender buds are placed within the oil and mixed up in a mason jar and allowed to sit like near a window that gets indirect sunlight for about 3 weeks. So it takes a little while for that oil. It's not a long process, but it does need time to kind of absorb those natural oils from the lavender buds. So you can use a regular carrier oil, which would be almond oil or olive oil or sunflower oil instead, but you would have to add more essential oils in the final product. So that's just a good thing to note about making lavender salve, is that if you don't have a lavender infused oil, if you're just using plain carrier oil, that you will need to add more essential oil in the long run. I prefer to have less essential oil and more natural lavender in there, so it's not a bad idea to kind of, make this lavender infused oil with dried lavender buds ahead of time. Now the next ingredient is going to be 4 tablespoons of beeswax. Now with the recipe I'm using, there's also an option to add shea butter, which might make the end product a little more soft. So if you do decide to use shea butter, which I'm not using, you would only use 3 tablespoons of beeswax versus 4 tablespoons beeswax. So you basically just subtract a tablespoon of beeswax if you're using a tablespoon of shea butter. So like I said before, this is a pretty easy recipe. If you decide to add anything in, you can always add stuff in. You don't only have to add lavender essential oil at the end either. You can mix lavender infused oil with rosemary infused oil if you want. It's a very easy to manipulate recipe. If you want to add rosemary or chamomile or calendula at the end with an essential oil, you can also do that. So you can do a lavender rosemary or a lavender calendula. It's a very versatile recipe, and I don't think people realize how easy it is to make a salve. Now, a lavender salve is going to be great for healing bruises, which I use it for. It helps reduce the appearance of scars. It's great for bug bites. That's another use that I use it for. Now this is going to slowly melt at a medium-low heat. I have it at about 3 right now on a regular electric stove. Other purposes for this lavender salve that I didn't mention, it also helps with acne, rashes, eczema. So a lot of people use it for that. But yeah, the main burns. But the main uses I've used it for has been for bruising, because lavender is great for its anti-inflammatory properties. And I have used it for bug bites. So I know that it works for those 2 things that I can give it credit for. So we're gonna just let this burn down a little bit on this medium-low heat and let this beeswax melt as I'm kind of continually stirring it. And the water is boiling underneath with no risk of burning the beeswax. Now, while we're watching this beeswax melt, which kind of takes a while, that's why we're doing it on low heat, because you want it to slowly melt, is that you can tell when the boiler's heating up because there will start to be like bubbles at the rim like this, and on the bottom you're going to see some air bubbles just from it kind of starting to boil on the bottom. That's how you know that it's almost time that this is going to start melting soon. That's what I look out for. And when you see that beeswax starting to sort of melt, you're going to want to stir it very frequently. You're not going to want to walk away or anything once you start seeing those bubbles at the bottom, because that means that the beeswax is going to start melting and that the boiler is heating to the temperature that you want it. Now you can see the wax melting here. It's kind of disintegrating. You're going to want to continually stir throughout this point. As you start seeing that wax melt into almost a translucent blending, a translucent kind of and then it's just kind of blend in with this olive oil. I mean, the infused oil mixture, which is a mix of olive oil and almond oil and sunflower oil. And you're just gonna blend it until it melts down all the way. It's never gonna come to a boil. You're just gonna literally just see these little air droplets on the bottom. That's the whole point of a double boiler, is not to burn the beeswax or to burn the oil. Now, we removed it from the heat because it's completely melted through, and this is where we're gonna add, I just have a little cup here, about 20 to 25 drops of essential oil. Now, you would add more of this, like I stated before, the lavender essential oil, if you didn't make a lavender infused oil like before. You have to remove it from the heat though before adding the essential oil because it's prone to dissipate. So we're just gonna mix that through a little bit, and then we're gonna pour it into our container. Now, this is the salve poured into the containers. It shows you how much this recipe makes. These are 2 small little glass containers and a small little tin. I'm not really sure about the ounces, but I think it's about a 4-ounce container. And there's still some left in here that I need to find another container for, but it just shows you how much you can make. Now I will come back with a follow-up video and show you our final step once this solidifies. Okay, so as you can see, this one has started to solidify. It's shiny on the top. It doesn't take that long to cool down, but at this stage, this is when we're going to add our amethyst chips, which have been cleansed and set with some positive intentions for healing. Now, the amethyst stone is an all healer. It's great for enhancing creativity and relieving stress and anxiety. So I figured this would be a great combination with lavender, especially since it has that beautiful purple color of lavender. So I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle these little amethyst gems that I have on top of this salve, you know, to make it just really pretty. And as it dries, it's just gonna look really nice. I'm gonna kind of make it as even as I can. And now you could do this any way you want.